Mark chapter 8, verse 22. You guys have it? All right. And it reads, Then he came to Bethsaida, and they brought a blind man to him and begged him to touch him. So he took the blind man by the hand and led him out of the town. And when he had spit on the eyes and put his hands on him, he asked him if he saw anything. And he looked up and he said, I see men like trees walking. Then he put his hands on the eyes again and made him look up. And he was restored and saw everyone clearly. Then he sent him away to his house, saying, Neither go into town nor tell anyone in the town. And that's where we're going to stop right here. For about 10 minutes, if I could just talk to you guys personally here. Have you ever found yourself in a place where things were changing in your life? You know, a season of change, something's happening. And although change was happening in your life, you saw change, but it just wasn't clear. Because I know that I've been that way. Speaking for myself, I remember when life took an unexpected turn for me, and I found myself in places where I didn't used to be. I found myself in a strange environment. I found myself in a place where I was asking more questions than I had answers. I had questions for everything, and perhaps it was just the weight of the feeling of the people that were dependent upon me at that time. You know, I had employees that I had to take care of. I had friends that I was looking out for. I had a fresh fiance that I had to worry about. And meanwhile, the life that I was living, weight was just coming down heavier and heavier to the point where I didn't know what I was supposed to do. Have you ever been in a similar situation? Have you ever been there before? Where you just find yourself, you're just saying, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Things start to look a little blurry. And it feels like while you're in this situation, you find yourself asking God for more help, but you're unsure if you can hear him or not because of all the noise that's going around in life. You're trying to do what you need to do. I need to hear from you, Lord, but it's just so noisy and loud right now. And maybe God's hand is on you. Maybe you feel the Lord's hand on your life, but still things just seem cloudy. It's an interesting situation. You know that you're tapped in with the one who heals. You're tapped in with the one who takes care of everything, but still things are cloudy. And you don't know what your purpose is in that moment. I've gone through that. And I want to let you know that no matter what you are going through, that you have to realize God does not make mistakes. I want you to understand that. God does not make mistakes. And I say that today because when it comes to the text, some preachers will suggest that Jesus had to touch this man's eyes twice because perhaps he missed the mark the first time. You know, he messed up, so maybe he had to do it again. Or they'll say the man's faith wasn't strong enough, and that's why Jesus had to touch him again. But once again, Jesus does not make mistakes. And there's nothing in this passage that says that the man's faith wasn't strong. So what does that mean? That means that this two-part healing that we see was not a failure of him getting it right the first time, but it is a lesson. We see now a lesson unfolding. Jesus was using this moment to teach something to the blind man and to the disciples standing there and to us we're reading it right now. See, he could have restored his perfect eyesight instantly because he's done that before. But here he chooses to do it in stages. That tells me something about the process that he wants us to pay attention to. Someone say that there is a process.
There is a process.
First, we notice after the disciples brought the man from Bethsaida to Jesus, Jesus takes him by the hand and he removes him out of the town. He relocates the man and he leads him to more of a suitable environment for the specific need that's about to go down. And one of the reasons why Jesus does this is because Bethsaida is a town, if you didn't know, is a town that's known for its marketplace. It's a place where the fishermen would come in and trade all the money and the fish. So it's obviously a busy town and it's full of distraction. And a blind man during this time would most likely be a beggar because they didn't fit into the social norms. And what better place is it to be if you are a blind person than to be in a busy environment where food and money is being traded back and forth? You're obviously going to get some type of overflow from that trade. But we have people today who are spiritually blind. And the spiritually blind people find themselves in similar environments. Environments that are busy, environments that are noisy, environments that are offering temporary solutions to get through the day, but no real remedy for transformation to take place. And it's a dangerous place to find yourself in when you're constantly worried about how you're going to make it through the day. It's not just how am I going to make it through financially, it's how am I going to make it through mentally? How am I going to make it through spiritually? You find yourself in this busy environment in your mind and it's moving around, and what happens is we become ourselves spiritual panhandlers, spiritual beggars, like the man who was in Bethsaida. But you have to know Jesus has come to you so that you may have life and have it more abundantly. He doesn't want you worrying about your day-to-day activities. He said, don't worry about that. If I took care of the sparrow and they got their food, you're going to have yours too. Don't worry about that, because he wants you to focus on something that's greater than you, and that's focusing on him, focusing on the life that he's given you. He gives you something where you are now full of life. And Jesus takes the blind man by the hand and he leads him out of the town. He relocates him and repositions him. And once they're out of the town, Jesus does something that we find unusual. But if I had time, rather, I would explain that it's not unusual to them. It's unusual to us because we don't know the history behind it. We see Jesus do two things that's really impactful here. He spits on the man's eyes and he places his hands on the man. That means he places his hands on his eyes. Like I said, if I had the time, I'll drive that whole message. That's a 30-minute message, and you would be shouting. But I want you to see something. What he says after he does it, he says, do you see anything? So obviously this man has been touched by Jesus. When we read the scriptures, we automatically think as soon as Jesus touches you, all the healing takes place and all of this happens. But what happens here, he says, do you see anything? And the man says, basically, I see men like trees. So he can distinguish men and he can distinguish what trees are. He sees men like trees walking. In other words, I can see, but it's still blurry. And right here is where those assumptions that others have made are wrong. Some think Jesus missed the mark here. Some think that this man's faith wasn't strong enough. But remember, none of that is true because there is a message. The message is the 2 times that he had to touch him was intentional. It was intentional. The first touch was not about giving him perfect sight. I wasn't trying to give you perfect sight the first time. It was about showing us that sometimes God brings out of us the darkness, or brings us out of darkness in stages, rather. Sometimes we think as soon as I get saved, then everything is going to get better. But there are stages at times that he must bring us out of. The man went from no sight to partial sight. And that is a huge improvement. If you have been blind and now you can see, you would think you would be happy just about being able to see just a little bit. But what happens is he says, no, I can see, but it ain't quite there yet. So Jesus, he didn't leave him where he was. He didn't leave him to say, well, you got just a little bit. You should just be happy with that. Imagine if Jesus just stopped right there. Imagine if Jesus said, you know what? I'm just going to let you have a little bit of sight and you tell folks that I halfway healed you. But that's where we find ourselves sometimes. If Jesus would have done that, we would be like this man. We would be saying, well, I tried Jesus, but he did not work for me. You ever heard someone say that? Well, I tried this Jesus thing. It didn't work for me. They're like the blind man at Bethsaida. You got touched. You see eyes, it's a little blurry. But now they're saying, I thought if I got saved, everything would be perfect. Everything would be clear right away. Some of us have said that, or some of us are saying that right now in our lives. I'm trying this thing, but it's just so blurry. But Jesus wants you to have complete and clear vision. That's what he wants for you. He wants to complete you. Because partial vision is still dangerous. When your vision is blurry, you can make a mistake, or you can mistake people for who they aren't. If you ever forget your glasses at home and you thought you saw somebody? I don't wear glasses for all my glasses wearers out there. You say, I thought you were somebody else. Partial vision is dangerous. You might start talking a whole conversation you ain't supposed to be having. Partial vision can cause you to misjudge your situations. You can make the wrong turn somewhere, turn too early, turn too late because you don't have the clear vision. Partial vision can cause you to walk in the wrong direction while thinking you're walking in the right direction because you can't read the signs properly. That's what partial vision does. And so some of us, we settle for better than it was. Well, I'm getting by. I'm better than I was yesterday. That's partial vision mentality. He doesn't want you to have partial vision mentality. He wants you to make it clearer than it's ever been. Tell your neighbor, make it clear for me.
Make it clear for me.
So Jesus touches the man's eyes. And this time you see where the Bible says he restored it and he saw everyone clear. That second touch changed everything. It wasn't Jesus having to try again. It was the man's journey was not finished yet. So I simply just come by in this first 10 minutes to give you a little bit just to let you know that some of us have dealt with that first touch from Jesus. And because we still think that our lives seem a little blurry, we think that that's it and that's the best that God can do. But that's not it. There was two things that happened here. Two things. One, Jesus touched him and allowed the man to answer him. The man had to have the boldness to tell Jesus, I'm not quite there yet. And sometimes you have to have the boldness in your prayer to say, Lord, I know we're dealing with this, but I'm not quite there yet. Touch me again, Lord Jesus.